Hey guys, it's Peyton, and today I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in December. I read 7 books in December, which is pretty good for me because I've been in a reading slump the past few months before that. So 7 books is pretty average for me when I'm actually reading, so I'm happy with myself for getting back into it. Ignore my freaking band-aid. I cut my finger, ripped it open, my hangnail died. It ripped off. It's just bleeding now, so that's fun. I read some decent books, one I really didn't like, one that was okay, and then one I'm obsessed with, like 5 out of 5 stars. So it's a little bit of a mix here today. The first book that I read in December was Cersei by Madeline Miller. This is one of my new favorite authors. I'm obsessed with Madeline Miller. Lots of tabs, 5 out of 5 stars. This is about the goddess Cersei. She is the daughter of the sun god Helios, or Helios, I don't know how to say it. She is someone I didn't know a lot about before, like, you know, it's mythology, but I didn't know a lot about Cersei. She comes across Odysseus at some point in this book, so he is in this book, and I guess she was in the Odyssey. The big thing about her is she eventually gets exiled to an island to live alone for like thousands and thousands of years. You know, she's an immortal goddess, so she just lives on forever. We see her as a young goddess to a goddess who has been around for a very long time. Like, we see her in her little girl days, who is very scared and obedient to her father. Then we see her grow to become such an independent, magical person who taught her everything she knows. She used to think she didn't have any special thing about her, but she's actually really good at witchcraft and making little potions and things like that, just using the earth for her powers. We see her really come in on her own, and there's not really a single person in the world who, you know, looked at her and saw her worth. She saw her own worth eventually, and she became so powerful, so wise, and I just really cared for this character. There's so many parts of this book where she's just literally, there's no one around. It's just her. It just wasn't even boring. Like, it was so entertaining for me, and I just cared about her so deeply. I find that Madeline Miller is just so great at getting you to care so deeply about these mythological characters that normally in mythology, like, they're just so one-dimensional, but she finds a way to make them so freaking dynamic, and you just understand them so intensely. They are just so important to you by the end of this book, and just so many powerful, beautiful lines. Definitely a new favorite author of all time, for sure. The next book I read was Raybearer by Jordan Ifueko, and this one is the first one in a duology, I believe, and I'm currently reading the sequel, Redemptor, right now on audio, and this one was pretty decent for me. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, I believe, and it is about a girl named cersei, and she has a mother called the Lady, and the Lady has made it so she can use one wish on her daughter, and it can be anything, and cersei won't be able to fight back from it. She will have to complete this wish no matter what. And her mother decides that she wants her to one day kill the prince, and the prince ends up being cersei's best friend. She keeps being his friend and then realizing, oh my gosh, one day I'm gonna have to kill this guy that I love so dearly. It's a very dark, deep, sad book, but I have enjoyed the character so far, and I'm interested to see where the second book, Redemptor, goes, and I'm hoping that Redemptor will be slightly better than this one and reaches that 5-star level, because I do see very much potential in this book. My dog is snoring, so please ignore her. The next book that I read was one I despised. It is One Day in December by Josie Silver. It is a Christmas book, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. I just couldn't stand it. This book was all about some cheating. It had love at first sight that made no sense. I didn't care about the characters. The one character that I liked was the one that the two characters were just doing so dirty the whole book. This girl, our main character, one day sees this dude. She's on a bus, and she sees him on the street, and they just lock eyes, and she's like, I am in love with that man. She searches for him for a freaking year, doesn't find him. Then one day, her best friend of life, she loves this girl more than anything, she shows up. Her new boyfriend is that guy, and she's like, oh my gosh, I can't, like, I have so many good feelings for him, like, I'm in love with him. So she doesn't tell her friend, and she dates this guy for a million years, and she continues to, like, emotionally cheat with this guy because he apparently likes her too, and he's still dating her best friend. I'm like, what the frick? It's the worst. It's emotional cheating, physical cheating. It is just not cute, and it tries to wrap it up in a little bow and say, like, this is good, but no. It was not good. I just don't support this, and the characters weren't good enough or interesting enough to make it worthwhile in the end. Like, I was so pissed off by these characters and all their decisions, and it upset me. You know, don't be cheating. It's not cute. And the love at first sight thing was just so ridiculous to me. Like, if this is really why you're so obsessed with him, like, you literally just saw his face and you never even spoke to him. And this character, he's a douchebag. There's literally nothing that I've seen throughout this whole book that made me, like, see why she was in love with this dude for so many years, even though he's dating her best friend and she loves her best friend. Why couldn't you just get over it, honestly? Like, y'all never even spoke and you're like, I'm in love with him. Like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? My best friend's with him. Like, you just thought he was attractive. I'm sorry, but you can get over that. Next book I read was Believe Me by Tahira Mafi. This one I gave a 3 out of 5 stars. I did have a reading vlog reading this and the next 3 books. So you can go watch that if you want to see my journey while reading that. I'll put it in the cards and the description below. This was a novella. It is supposed to be after the 6th book in the Shatter Me series. And the Shatter Me series is pretty much a girl who has a killer touch. If she touches you, you die. And eventually she finds someone that she can touch without killing them. And she's just such a powerful character. She starts off as a character who is just so scared of the world, and eventually she just becomes so powerful and independent and just so awesome. And that's my favorite part about the Shatter Me series is her character development. She just really goes through a number and becomes a whole different character, and it's just so beautiful to see. But this freaking novella itself was just not very necessary for me. I only could give it a 3 stars because I didn't hate my time reading it. You know, I saw some characters that I love and I got to see them again after the final book in the series. It just wasn't very necessary, and the whole point of this novella ended up, you know, not even happening. There was something in the final book that we were left off like wanting more of, and this novella was supposed to be that, and then this novella ended right before that thing was supposed to happen. So it was like, why did we even have this novella? It was kind of stupid, but it was from Warner's point of view. I do love that character, but it just didn't end up being what I was hoping for it to be, and I don't feel like it was very needed for the series. Like, you could probably skip this and be just fine. The next book I read was another Christmas book. It was The Holiday Switch by Tiff Marcello. My best friend bought me this for Christmas and I read it and finished it on Christmas Eve just in time for the holiday season, you know? And this was a cute book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely an enjoyable little Christmas romance and I can see myself rereading it in the future. And it's pretty much about this girl who lives in Holly, New York. Is that like a real place? I would love to know. And it's like a very Christmassy town. Everything's Christmassy and some like famous Christmas movie was filmed in there. Pretty sure it's a fictional movie. But she works at a shop that is very Christmassy and has a bunch of like memorabilia from this Christmas movie that everyone loves. And she has like a little book section in there that she manages and organizes because she really loves books. She's a book blogger. And one day her boss's nephew starts working there too and takes a bunch of her shifts that she really was needing because she's saving up for college. It pisses her off. They become rivals and it's a whole thing. One day they accidentally switch phones after leaving work and they see each other's text messages about each other and their own lives and they have to meet up at a freaking diner in the morning to swap the phones and they start talking. Starts to become a cute romance and they do a bunch of Christmassy things. It was cute and it's bookish. We see a bunch of her book reviews and she reviews Christmas books only. Like, she has a little book blog about Christmas books. I just thought it was a cute little holiday romance and I definitely think it could be one for people to pick up, you know, holiday season. I recommend it for next Christmas for any of you guys because, you know, it wasn't the most amazing thing I've ever read, but it was definitely an enjoyable thing to pick up. The next book that I read was The Lost Girls by Sonia Hartle. This is a YA urban fantasy thing. It has vampires, teenage vampires. Well, they're not really teens anymore because the main character has been a vampire for 30 years, but she was a teenager when she got turned by her ex-boyfriend. Her ex-boyfriend, she finds out, keeps seducing young girls and turning them into vampires and then leaving them afterwards. And that really sucks. So a bunch of the characters are this guy's ex-girlfriends and they're all vampires and they decide they're gonna join up and kill the man so he doesn't keep turning young girls into vampires. So he has a current girlfriend who is in high school. She's not a vampire yet and the main character starts to fall in love with her. But I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars because the romance, I didn't feel it. It was insta-lovey to me. I did love the vampire vibes. I didn't fall in love with the characters. The concept was fun. You know, it was a fun little book. but it just didn't do anything to me to the point where like I'm obsessed with this book in any way. And that's really sad because I was really excited for this. Like I literally have an arc. It came out in September and I finally read it. I like requested this arc because I was so excited about this idea, you know, like some gay vampires. I was super excited, but it just didn't end up being like a new favorite or anything. It was just okay to me. I still encourage you to pick it up because you might love it way more than I did. Next book I read was You Love Me by Caroline Kepnes, and this one I gave a 3 out of 5 stars, but I'm like, it could have been a 2 stars, honestly. This is the third one in the You series, and I've only liked the first one in the You series. To be quite honest, I keep reading them because Joe, the main character, like he's a stalker and we're in his point of view, and like it's written in second person, so it's a really creepy vibe. And I ended up reading this one because it came out in 2021, I'm pretty sure, and I binged the whole show finally because I read the first 2 books years ago and I never watched the show. The show's actually really good and I feel like it improves like things from the second one, and I don't even think they really touched the material from the third book, honestly. I do think it's like going in a direction that's better than what the books are doing currently. The first book was pretty like spot on with the first season. Like those are pretty well adapted. Like they're very similar to each other, but after that, like it's very different, and I feel like the show is going in a better direction. So I'm enjoying the show more than the book series now. He just keeps stalking people and like killing people, and it's just the same thing every time. Like that's my problem. I've just gotten bored with the concept. It's just like a new setting and slightly different characters every single book, and it just goes down pretty much the same every time. So it's just gotten bored. I was really bored. Like halfway through this book I was like, okay, I'm done with this. But I had to finish it because it was my final book of the year and it reached me to 80 books. You know, at least it did that for me, but it just doesn't stick with me at all, and I was kind of just trudging through it by the end because it just wasn't very good anymore. So those are all the books that I read in December. Let me know what you read in December and if you read any of these books, if you liked any of them, if you agree with my opinions or disagree. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Like it, comment down below. Have a good day. Please subscribe. Make sure to follow all my social medias, which are linked down below, and go click the bell button, which is right by the subscribe button, which you should already clicked, and goodbye.